Big Ron Shaw here, the Earl of Upsets, telling you to watch my friends, Monte and the Pharaoh, on Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast show, and soon to be the world's #1 wrestling podcast show. That is going to be a big upset.
All right, welcome back to the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling, Monte and the Pharaoh, brought to you by FanDuel. Get your bets in, people. You only got a few more hours to go, where we've got a special Snowfall edition with formerly known as Eli the Eliminator, now as John Richmond. John, welcome to the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling, Monte and the Pharaoh. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. John, real quick, I want to ask you a few questions. Started off, state of the country, thoughts, what's happening in the world right now. We always love to hear how former pro wrestlers think about politics, and we got everything going on with ICE and what happened in Minnesota. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough nut right now. This is no different than the Obama and Clinton days when they were deporting. A lot of people forget that part about illegal. So that's just my thought on it. I know if I was to go across the border illegally, I would be transported back with prejudice. So that's my thoughts there.
Let me ask you about this. And again, we'll make ourselves clear so you know which side of the fence we're on. We're both pro-Republican, pro-Trump, but also have a moral standard about, we're believers in Christ and believe in morality, right? So there's a hard push and pull here that we've got going on in the world, right? Because you've got, clearly you have to clear this country out of the illegal immigration, but then there's a morality part there where we're pulling people away from their children, and it's very difficult. And what were your thoughts about the first incident a week and a half ago with the woman that was protesting that ended up getting shot in the face?
I'm a big believer in law enforcement. Boy, what a job, especially in this day and age. You're basically on the hit list with the public. Disrespect, disregard. So that's God bless our law enforcement and our first responders. It's a compassion issue, definitely. The bad thing is we got pushed out of I think I'm trying to think of the right word. It's blown up because of the hatred of one man, is the way I see it. So it's the hatred of our president that people, you can tell them the sky is, blue. And if President Trump said the sky is blue, they're gonna fight you tooth and nail that it's not. So I think we have that polarization. That's really the basis of all this stuff. We got to remember it's illegal. People have come here illegally, go through the proper channels. It was an open border policy. I think that was part of the game. We're looking at voter base. Is my opinion. You want voter base. You want to give people IDs and licenses and free services. You're buying loyalty is what you're doing. I think it's corrupt and it's been going on for a long time, not just now. It's been going on for a long time. So, unfortunately, our president has a great task of making this, getting us back on track as a country. And that's, right or wrong, people are gonna. But my opinion is, yeah, we got to get this under control. The compassion, I that's something that's going to be an issue from here till eternity. The same thing. I'm a born again Christian, so I do have that compassion, but I I just see the other side going completely ignoring the fact that this is people came here illegally, and they discount that. Um, and I think that's step one. That's the problem. Let's go from there. But bad press, people hating our president, and that's the main. I think that's the main crux behind this.
Well said, John. Jimmy, your thoughts?
Don Lemon should be in jail.
I think so.
He's an orchestrator of violence. There's really no way around it. He pissed all over the religious belief. I'm sorry, and then he calls himself
Yeah.
a Christian, and I say, ha ha. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and he's dangerous. People like that are dangerous. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a lot of that rhetoric that is so. Man, it's just like complete disregard for truth. It's just they make up their own. I don't know. It's their own thought, their own fairyland. This is the way it's not. It is a law. People have broken the law to come into the states. Unfortunately, we have politicians that encourage that, and people with significant stature pushing that. And it's like we got to go back to the basics. They're here illegally.
They're twisting the
You know.
narrative. Recently, I do believe, guys, it was J.D. Vance that spoke about. The press was reporting that they took a child from a father, and he
Yeah.
clarified that the father, who had entered the country illegally, fled physically and left the child standing there alone as he fled physically. J.D.
Right.
Vance was like, well, what are we supposed to do? You want us to leave the child standing there with nobody to take them in and shelter them and feed them until they properly... what are you people? What are we doing? We're twisting the narrative, Mikey.
Right.
But here's a tough part of it. Just like with the last shooting a couple of days ago in Minnesota, where that gentleman was shot. Supposedly he had a gun with him. Then there's people saying he didn't have a gun with him. Like, you don't know what the truth is here, and that's the other thing. The news is driving all this, right? They drove people to hate President Trump, and on the other hand, it's like you don't know what the truth is. So it's quite difficult. It's a bad place right now.
The seed has already been planted, and it's true. The media was the point of origin, but now it's in all of us. Don't you see? So even if the media suddenly went neutral, would we? We're already programmed to this sort of thinking. Everybody's combative. If I say potato, you say potato.
Well, here's something that can't be denied, right? Iran right now, it might be the weakest they've ever been in God knows how long, right? The Middle East is getting under control. I mean, just that in itself, if Venezuela can shut down Cuba, right, or get control of Cuba, we've got world peace almost. You're talking about making President Trump, give him a Nobel Peace Prize. So it's like you got two different ends, but I kind of go with what you don't mind me calling you John, right? You don't want me to call you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You don't want me to call you Mad Max Eli.
No.
Well, we're talking politics, right?
Right. No.
So again, we have this we have this push and pull thing, but I really do agree with John. I feel like the hatred for President Trump, no matter what happens, it's and let's be fair, if we're going to be honest, and this is what we do, is he's put that upon himself also. He doesn't know when to back it off. Like, back it off, dude. Like, take a break. Women do control this country. Like, let's not downplay women that often. I mean, come on, stop already, will you? Oh my God.
I'll tell you though, Mike. I think he's kind of like Gene Simmons, and stay with me on this. They love to piss people off. It's part of them. Now, it frustrates me sometimes as a Trump supporter, but I think we all know when Trump is purposely pushing buttons to get a response like that. Look, part of that is what got him where he got. Okay, let's be real. So I think it's kind of like with Gene Simmons. I mean, Ace Frehley dies, he's not even cold yet, and boom, Gene's talking shit about the 70s again. It's like, Gene, what are you doing? But they're talking about him. That's the whole point.
It's a good point. Let's get to the important part, John. We were talking
Yes.
before the show. That beard, how long did that take to grow? And then my question is after you put that kind of time into it, like Jimmy with his hair, it's like you just can't cut it away. What do? You put yourself in a conundrum right now.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. The rock on a hard spot. I'm just gonna let it go. I think I'm gonna go for the Santa Claus thing next year. A little,
All right.
But no, I've been going. Like I said, I guess it's been a couple of years now, and I'll just keep going and braid it.
Santa Claus, I think
braiding gets
he's
pretty.
there.
But I'm going to say, like, I
He's
guess it's the type of person you are. Because during COVID, I grew mine out, but not quite that long, right? But you get like food in it, soup in it.
Yeah.
It's like it's it's difficult to manage. I'm being serious here.
Yeah, the dog likes it.
There you go. You always got the dog to clean it.
Yeah,
I love
right.
it. I love it.
Right.
All right, so John, let's just start the questions. How do you decide to become a pro wrestler? I mean, dude, you're first of all a huge guy. Were you naturally huge? Or were you gassing?
No, I was actually I just got out of the service when I got into it, and I was playing.
By the way, thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. I was stationed in Germany. We actually, it was the first year for the German American Football League. That team's still playing. I looked it up online. So we had a German American Football League that I was playing with over there, full pads, teaching the Germans how to play, and it was a blast, man. So I was training. I was training in the service when I got out. I was at Purdue.
Well, John, can I ask you what branch were you in?
Army.
Nice. So was I.
Yeah.
You ever hear of Schwäbisch Gmünd, Germany?
Schwäbisch Gmünd. Well, no, where's that?
See, people always think I'm bullshitting, right? So I was in 86 to 91. Schwäbisch Gmünd was really actually Hitler's concern, they used to call it. It was close to closest major city I would probably say Stuttgart.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, where the Pershing missiles were, right? Do you remember?
Gotcha.
That's where I was stationed.
Yeah, that was still big when I was in. It was East and West Berlin back then too. It was funny. My daughter and her husband live in Berlin, so they live in they've been over there since for 15 years or so. That's where she lives.
So
anyway.
I'm trying to picture crazy Germans learning how to play football. I mean, how insane was that?
The guy, it was I don't know who brainstormed this, but this came up, and the guys. I was stationed in Karlsruhe, which is I was right close to the Rhine there, and we're about 45 minutes, I guess, from the Black Forest there. These guys were all Harley riders. These Germans, man, they all come up on choppers and stuff, and it was just immediately everybody got along.
Plus, they were all gassed out, right? All the Polizei they were all juiced out. Like you could pick up steroids right out of the store, right?
Over there, no, they weren't juiced. That's the thing. They were just big, natural, big guys that just like to fight. And we put pads on them and taught them how to do it, and we had a blast, man.
Wow, that's some good service there.
Yeah.
So once we get out of service, let's talk about. But I do have a question, right? So we've had Manny Fernandez. I don't know if you know.
Oh,
Manny
really?
Fernandez.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
we've had him on twice, right?
Yeah.
But one of the big things, or the hatred that goes out to Manny Fernandez, is he claims to be a Vietnam vet, and then I guess some guy Don Shipley called him out on his YouTube channel. What are your feelings on valor, or people claiming valor when they didn't? What's that called? Uncommon valor? Help me out here. I can't.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, there was a bunch of con artists.
So, what do you thoughts about Matt? Since you were over there, Manny, you must have heard Manny saying that he was in Nam. What were your thoughts there?
He never said that. When I was with Manny Fernandez, we were in Japan together, and that's where I met him and worked with him and stuff. he never mentioned it. Now I heard stories, but he never told me anything about his service days. I just heard stories, but he never mentioned it. Never, try to, get over on it or anything like that. So I
Stolen
just took it
valor.
as a grain
Stolen
of
valor.
stolen valor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just took it as, with a grain of salt. You know how, shoot, you know how it is, and especially in a business, everybody's got, uh, you know, all kinds of stupid stuff. They think they know.
Everybody's working, right? Everybody's bullshit.
Yeah, it's all an angle, and so I never gave much thought to that rhetoric. I just did my own thing, and kind of I was kind of a solo kind of guy anyway, where I didn't hang around with the guys afterwards, and I'd go off on my own. And so yeah, I was a little more not as sociable as the rest of the guys. I just did my thing.
Yeah. So you get out of military and go ahead. Where were we at there?
I was at Purdue, was training down at the place called the Levy. It's in West Lafayette. So I was on campus training. I go down to this gym down there and actually started training with this guy. And he worked for Dick the Bruiser back in the WWA, when Dick was, when Dave McLean from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling and Scott Romer was his then son-in-law. Yeah, I think he was became his son-in-law. Scott's a world famous photographer. You see, pull his stuff up on all the boxing and wrestling stuff. He's interesting individual, to say the least. Been around a lot of presidents and stuff like that. But anyway, training down there, and the guy goes, "Hey, you ever thought about wrestling?" I go, "No." I watched a little bit of Georgia wrestling and stuff like that on TV. Down there was '83. Watching a little bit of that, and he said, I said, "Well, what the heck?" I never thought about it, and he took me to introduce me to Dick at a show, and him and Dave McLean are. I don't know if you heard this or not, but they're down there actually counting money, and Greg, he goes, "Hey, Dick, this is the guy he's telling you about." And Dick just kind of looked up in his gruff voice and says, "That, yeah, he'll do." And it was, that's when it was, you still could do that. Now, you have to have a pretty good following of people getting you in and getting through the schooling and all that stuff. Back then it was just kind of a word of mouth and bingo, no training. I did a few bumps and stuff in a regular gymnasium, but not on a mat or a ring. And,
but you knew at the point that it was fake.
I knew that. I knew some of the whole. I knew, you always have this. I guess it was. How do they do it? My thought back then, I guess my mindset was, okay, I realized there's got to be something to this. How do they do it? And so I kind of learned being green as grass, and so a lot of guys, the veterans, kind of took advantage of me at first because I didn't know, and then I started figuring it out. So it was kind of, yeah.
Were you aware of this golden opportunity? I mean, you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware of who Dick the Bruiser was? That to the AWA, Dick the Bruiser is top level legendary.
Yeah. Yeah, back then it was like I had grown up watching Bob Luce wrestling out of Chicago on Sundays, So we get home from church and watch a little bit of wrestling and then go out and play with your friends. I had some,
and then wrestling, very interesting.
And then church and wrestling, yeah. So exactly.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I knew of Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher. You hear them as kids and stuff. And I always thought Moose Sholak, was cool as all get out. Just a big man, just a big strong guy. And I thought, man, that guy's cool. He had the sleeveless, shirts on, and he'd come up with that moose head and stuff. And it was like, wow, that guy's pretty cool. He's real, And the Superstar Graham and Putski and all the old timers, but I knew of it, and I watched a little bit of it, but I never followed it. I was never considered a fan. And then when I had the opportunity, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was just like, this is the next thing in my life. So let's try this. So yeah, you're right. I didn't have that wow, that wow effect until later.
Were you married at the time or involved with
No,
anybody at the time?
no,
Were
no.
your parents still? Were your parents still around?
Parents were still around. Yeah, yeah.
So you
Both
said,
were
"Hey,
still.
mom and dad, I'm going to become a professional wrestler." What do they say
Yeah.
to
Oh, it broke their heart.
you? Of course.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
What
yeah.
were you
They,
supposed to be?
yeah.
Not a pro wrestler, that's for sure.
Yeah, not a pro wrestler.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was a shocker for him, and it eventually kind of once started progressing through it and stuff, and going to Japan, they kind of they started lightening up a little bit, quite a bit, but and my mom was the librarian at one of the local grade schools, and all the kids would follow, and so she started lighting up pretty quick because the kids were coming in and says, "Hey, can we have your son's autograph?"
Right,
And the grade school kids, so she's kind of like, she got on board a lot quicker than my dad did, but eventually they finally both did. But yeah, it's not something hey, I want to grow up and be a pro. I want to grow up and be a pro baseball player. So
yeah.
I love, I love playing baseball. So, but yeah, it was different. Mom and dad weren't too happy about it.
What was the original plan for yourself, though? You went to the military, then you went to Purdue. Like, what was your plan? Like, what was it before this happened?
I was actually studying to be like kinesiology and stuff like that, and working with physical therapy. I like coaching, that kind of activity, working in athletics. I love playing sports, so I was gearing for that. This came along, and it's like, you know what? When you're 20, 21 years old, I'm not the same guy at 65, right? So I made a rash decision in some people's mind, but you know what? It's just that's the way my life turned. I didn't see anything detrimental. I jumped on it, and I think I did. I took advantage of it and moved up the ranks, to some extent, and then and once I blew my knee apart, that was pretty much it for me. But anyway, that's kind of how it went. It was just kind of like the luck of the guys would die for that opportunity, and it was just landed in my lap. So
You mentioned early on that some of the guys gave you a little bit of a hard time. Did you at any point early on say to yourself, maybe I shouldn't have gotten involved in this craziness?
no, because I realized they didn't. It wasn't a dislike thing like that. So when I first started, the guys I'm talking about are Stormy Granzik was there. Jeff Van Camp, who later became Lord Humongous. Spike was there for a little bit. Spike Huber, actually, he was there for a little bit. Johnny Valiant, Guy Mitchell. So there's the Jerry Valiant, Jimmy Valiant's from Hammond here, and so you had the Valiant brothers. So I got to work with Johnny Valiant, with my first partner, Dr. Jerry Graham, Wojo, Bobo Brazil, Moose Cholak. So those are kind of like the main guys. And they did some of the guys, they're taking advantage. A couple of things here and there. I remember I was standing up in the ring. I'm working with Dr. Jerry Graham, my partner. I'm working with Moose Cholak, and I can't remember. It was Bobby Colt or something. Anyway, I'm standing in the ring up on the ropes, and I'm like, looking at the girls and stuff like that. Next thing you know, Moose stomps over, man, and lands one, busts me right in the stinking nose, knocks me to the ground for real. Blood's everywhere. And Jerry comes over and he's laughing, man. He gets me curled up. He goes, "That'll teach you. Pay attention to the match." And I'm like, from that time, it was like, man, eyes focused, what's going on in that ring, because you got to be able to, you got to be able to do what you're supposed to do at the right time, not daydream, basically. So, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but yeah, they took a little advantage of me and tossed me around a little bit more than needed, but it was all part of the thing, and I didn't take it with any as an insult or anything like that. I just learned from it.
Do you eventually, is this like a Lion King thing where like eventually you're the guy that's teaching lessons if you have to? I'm just curious.
Not that, yeah, I don't know. I did have the opportunity to work with some guys in the ring, as you know, through the years. So I think I'm like this. I'm a retired union carpenter. I ran work for,
All
uh,
right.
so I ran work for a lot of years, and I had a couple iron workers that on the crew that were just phenomenal guys. They were just top shelf. And first thing people come out of their mind goes, iron workers? No, these guys are really, really top shelf guys, man. And I pulled them aside and says, I'm retiring. I'm going to tell you all the things I did wrong because you guys are going to be the next ones in line. And so I just sat them down and just went through my failures as a superintendent and things that worked out good for me, So it would, I like that. I like to, to help out a guy. I'm not spiteful, and I just like to help out a guy that's coming up. If I can help him with some, hey, don't do that. This works for me. You might want to try that. I'll do that, but it's not like I'm the grand wizard,
Well done, sir. My partner is a huge fan of Bill Watts as a promoter.
Mhm.
Can you share your thoughts on Bill Watts and what was it like working with him?
I had I didn't really get to meet him except for we went to his ranch for interviews. So we do our circuit, and so I didn't really get to say, "Hey, Cowboy Bill Watts, how you doing?" I was an employee. I didn't see that a lot of that going on with where he was there, but he wasn't. You didn't converse with him, and he was most of the time behind the scenes. So, but I tell you what, that promotion, wow, that was a break and a half. They were just getting there. I was the reason I got there. I was working with Jim Dugan over in Japan, on another tour, and we became buddies over there. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing when you get back?" I says, I'm talking about going back to the AWA, and he's like, "I want to bring you down there with me." And I said, man, I'm there. And man, that was the best thing that happened to me was getting down there at the UWF, working for Bill Watts. I didn't have any issues with him. He kept us busy, and you had to work, man. You had to work, and you had to. I mean, we did those bunkhouse blood battle royals. We did them, a month straight every night. We worked 30 days straight every night. You're juicing, So do your match, and then you go and do this thing, a dark match, So yeah, he kept you working, and you traveled a lot. You drove a lot, but it was a lot of fun.
I always felt that outside, well, it's just me as a fan and what I prefer watching, but outside of Vince McMahon, I always felt that Bill Watts was the best at putting together what I wanted to see out of a program. What do you think went wrong with the territory days, and how was Vince able to do what he did?
Yeah, we lived through that and just watched it get picked and pulled, and I crying out loud. You talk to some of the. Oh, let me go back a little bit. I used to work with Ox Baker a lot.
Oh,
And Ox, and what a great guy that guy was.
oh,
He was a lot
what a
of fun,
villain.
man.
What a great
Yeah.
villain.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
He was, what a face.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
he was saying, yeah, he worked for the old man, for Vince Sr. And he says, man, it was great working for these older promoters, treated the guys right, back in the 60s and stuff, treated the guys really fair and square. And then the money, the greed, the promoters promoters were the villains, and then Vince was just picking and pulling and taking all the top, basically taking the top angles away, because we all realized that we're not the guy. There's 1,000 guys out that back door that can step in and take your position. So I never thought of it like that. It was just the angles. And when you take a top, a Jim Dugan from UWF and put him in New York, that angle that just dies, man. There's no way you can finagle around it. It's you're building, and then all of a sudden your main actor gets cut. Who's going to fill that void? Bill Watts was good about that. I mean, I think he weathered that pretty well because there were other angles going on. But when you start doing it, in all these territories at the same time, yeah, it starts. It was noticeable. I mean, we could see it in the locker room, and then we know the fans saw it. So, but I don't know. He was able to do that, and I think it was just money. I think money's the main deal. Get more cash.
Were you there when Junkyard Dog was in the UWF?
No, he had been gone. I'm trying to think. I think he was gone several years before I got there. But Buck Robley, you remember that name, Colonel
Yes.
Buck Robley?
Yep.
Yeah. So Buck was kind of the guy that initially kind of went early on, kind of before I was doing the Dick the Bruiser. I was kind of I met Buck. He lived in the same town I was living at the time through a friend, and so I went and checked out him and his friend and I. We went to Kansas City, and he was running the book down there. That's where I met Frank and Kerry and Dog and all them guys. I didn't know anything about nothing, and I was just kind of hanging out and checking this out, right? And so getting back to that, shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Okay. We were talking about Junkyard Dog and
oh yeah.
Basically
Okay.
Vince stripping the talent, right?
Yeah, stripping. Yeah. And so, like I said, it's I just got up on a side road there with where I met Junkyard Dog. But anyway, you start pulling all that talent away, and he took so much so fast. It just formed a vacuum,
What was the hot feud when you were there? Was it Duggan and Hacksaw Butch Reed? What was the feud that Duggan was?
No, the feud then was Hacksaw Duggan. It was him and DiBiase, if I remember right. And then so we worked that angle. So that's another thing. He had a strong partner there in Ted.
Yeah, that's gold.
With the heat. Yeah. And so it was like it made it a little easier. But then Ted's gone, and then I was down there with the Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Sting and Steiner. Who else was down there? Crying out loud!
I gotta tell you,
Eddie Gilbert.
You guys were loaded at one point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was tagging with the One Man Gang and Devastation with Akbar.
What was a payday during that hot time for you?
The what now?
What was your payday in that time for you?
It was okay. It still wasn't. The Steve Williams, those guys were getting the top dollar, right. But you couple grand a week, kind of stuff, but. It wasn't.
A couple grand a week isn't too bad, right?
Yeah, Yeah, it wasn't something you can live on as a single man. I thought, but you always had that hope of that payday,
Yeah, sure.
The big one, but Japan paid really well, so that you always wanted to go to Japan, and you always wanted to keep moving up to get the better pay. So, but when I started working for Dick, it was $35 a night, man.
Shit.
Oh yeah, dude, it was terrible.
Oh my God.
Take us through what goes on in your mind, because you come from the old school. You were watching in the 70s. You break into the business. You remember when it was being sold as a sport.
Yeah.
Before Hulkamania, before Vince, what goes through the wrestler's mind? You get into this business, you're old school trained, and here comes Hulkamania.
Yeah. It was all kayfabe. It was all. I remember like I remember Steve Regal and I wrote a few shows together, and he just passed this last summer, and I had to drop him off, like, block from the arena, that kind of those kind of days where you couldn't be seen together.
Right.
You had to really do you had to perform on and off, in and out of the ring. You had to perform. You couldn't be seen together. You couldn't be doing all that stuff. But yeah, once that all happened, heck, some of the guys were still talking carny back then, so it was a total different business. And then all of a sudden, like you said, the floodgates come open, everybody's exposing, and it's like, wow, so it was kind of a heartbreaking, and now it is what it is. But yeah, the guys were just opening up about everything, and kind of we're like, yeah, the rest of us. I speak for a lot of guys. I think on this, they were broken. Their heart was broken when that happened, because it changed everything, So
Let me ask you this. So here you come, you're learning this thing, and then you go back to the AWA, right? At this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start working with the Rockers, right? At
Mm-hmm.
some point.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? Because again, the Rockers were innovative at that point,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
no one was really working that way. What was it like working with Sean and Marty at that time?
Yeah, that was a good time. I mean, excellent workers. They're both. Now Sean was full of himself. He was pretty cocky, but Marty was just down to earth. But yeah, I enjoyed working with them guys. But like you said, they were innovators with that gimmick, and it was a big deal. You're working with the Rockers. You knew you were in the right direction. Let's put it that way.
So let me ask you this. You just mentioned Sean, and again, just your opinion. We're just fans, right? So what we understood is that Marty, from interviewing so many wrestlers, that Marty was the better wrestler at the point and looked like the guy that was on the fast track. Where does it go wrong? And then Sean gets this fast track, and Marty, especially since here you are, right? This is Shawn Michaels before he's even anything, and he's a dickhead.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
yeah. How does this happen?
I don't know. I heard a couple things. I heard that Marty got hooked up on the pharmaceuticals, and you see that a lot, unfortunately, in the business. It's a lot of guys just become ragdolls. I don't know for a fact, but I had heard that that Marty got kind of hooked up, and then I wouldn't trust Sean any further than I could throw him. So I just have a feeling he probably just sold him out, and
can you share a story that you had with Sean that made you feel that
No,
way?
it was just the persona. It was not like it was the way he carried himself. So yeah, I don't know. I was always pretty good about picking up on characteristics, and them. Some guys you could they were just blatant. He was full of himself. I'm just going to tell you. It wasn't a work. It wasn't. That was his attitude. He was full of himself, and at a young age. And I'm thinking, great, that's why the bad guys were always the cool guys. The good guys,
Right.
Because the good guys thought they really were good.
Mike, we've talked about this. We've talked about this subject a lot over the years about Marty and Sean, and the more I think about it, you're comparing two really top shelf guys as far as their ability in the ring to begin with. So let's start
Right,
there.
yeah.
Because honestly, that is the truth. I think at the
Yeah.
end of the day, when you're a Vince McMahon and you're looking at creating a character like, even Shawn Michaels, yeah, it's a character. When he looked
Right.
at the two of them, he saw one was much better looking than the other one. Sure, Vince is materialistic sometimes, and to a gain in this case. He looked at Sean. He was like, okay.
Yeah.
The real difference is that Sean was able to adapt to the
Or
snake
Jimmy,
pit.
if you listen
To
to
the
Bret
snake
Hart,
pit. I mean, Marty couldn't play the game, man.
if
He
you
couldn't.
listen to Bret Hart and you listen to Marty Jannetty on the show, if Vince and him were
Yeah.
lovers, you have no advantage there, right?
Yeah.
Oof.
John, let
Oof.
me ask you this: what was Vern? You worked for Vern. He had so many opportunities. Hulk Hogan,
Mhm.
Kurt Hennig, Scott
Whoops.
Hall, the
Whoops.
Rockers, on
Whoops.
and on and on. What? Whoops, wrong picture.
Yep.
What
There he
was
is.
Vern like as a promoter, and did he just not get it?
When I met Vern was up in Minneapolis on a big show there, and he came in the locker room, and he reminded me of my grandpa. Just a sweet old guy, you know.
Oh God.
And as far as you know, at that time, his son was running the book, you know, but Vern just he was yeah, he was up in age.
So he wasn't champion at the time you met him, because I think he was holding the belt
No,
into his mid-50s at least. Go on. On and
no,
off.
he was just he was at the end of his. He wasn't wrestling. He was in his suit and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, he just reminded me of my grandfather. Just nice guy. Hey, Vern, how you doing? Thanks for the opportunity. You know, and a little small talk, and hey, you guys, you know, glad you guys are here, and you know, nice guy. I just everything was done with through his son, pretty much. So um, that. That's my story. Same thing with Fritz. Fritz meeting Fritz down in Texas Stadium. It was just, you know, these guys are way past out of their prime, of course, and
Right.
they're you know they're at the end of life, and you know, so it's nice to meet them, but actually, are they pulling the strings? Most likely no.
Well,
You
then
know,
talk to us about Greg. Did Greg not know what he was doing?
I like working with Greg. I mean, he was fine. I just don't know. He had the talent. He couldn't. It was just tough getting draws. We know everything's cyclical. Especially, I mean, wrestling's very cyclical. I mean, it was going down the tubes, you know, 20 years ago, and then now it's back up again. You know, so it's got a rhythm to it. Um, Greg, nice guy, but I don't know if he had a command of the I don't know the business as he needed to have. You know, and you got to maintain talent. You know, so you know that's all I can really go on it with that, because like I said, I wasn't um, you know, entwined with Greg, and just met him a few times, but just seeing there and watching what's going on, it's like, wow,
I mean, but
it's a stepping stone.
doesn't that become frustrating to you? It's like you're trying to hit the big time. You see opportunities with some of this talent, and the guy that's running the ship is you know, again, to be
Yeah,
fair to Greg, but it's not working. And again, I
yeah,
don't know how involved you are and stuff, but if you know, he started this Power Town toy company, and he stole all the fans. All the
right,
fans' money because he couldn't come
yeah,
through with that either. So just an example of maybe he doesn't know how to run a business. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I thought the same way when I was working for Dick. It's like, you know, we didn't have real top shelf. We had a lot of older talent, you know, with Bobo and stuff like that. But you didn't. He wasn't drawing diddly, you know. We Indianapolis, we draw pretty decent. We do our. He had links with the you know, with the ABC television down there for interviews and stuff, but it was really could have been done a lot better, and it just almost was at the point of it was so hokey. You know what I mean? It was like there was like no effort being put forth. It was just riding it out, kind of that mentality. And I think he had the opportunity with all the talent that was there, that had been there, and that still was coming to the WWA, and nothing really, you know, it wasn't the days. It wasn't the 70s anymore. You know what I mean? The 60s and 70s with the WWA, and it was just like riding it out on fumes and see how far you can get, and that's that. So
When
unfortunately,
Vern,
that's
when Vern was still trying to compete, though, how much of his downfall was due to creative or financial? Because it seems to me like he got very, very cheap with Hogan, like wanting to keep T-shirt money and stuff, like very foolish. But at the same time, not adapting to the entertainment kind of thing. I guess he tried with his Wrestle Rock, but he seemed to be lacking something other than just. What do you think it was? Because he didn't, at least the NWA slash WCW, at least punched almost in step
hmm
as the years went on? What caused the AWA to be the first one to go kaputty?
I don't know.
Kaputty.
Like I said, it was pretty standard fare. I mean, you look at it. It was nothing. I mean, the sensationalism started picking up then, and he wasn't doing that. He wasn't playing that game. It was just old school wrestling matches, and,
Right.
and people were, Vince was offering this other entertainment, and people were like diving in, man. It was huge for the business, So I mean, who was right or wrong? Well,
How do you feel
yeah.
how Hulk Hogan should be remembered? What would your testimonial be to Hogan's influence on this business?
He had the I'm going to say he was probably the Tiger Woods to golf.
Wow.
He was to wrestling. With that being said, everything's generational and everything's cyclical. And the old timers, they brought it to a point, and then we rode that cycle for a while, that up and down, and then you had this when he came out in that Rocky movie. It was like, oh my God, I remember seeing that movie in Germany in the army at the base, and it's like, wow, this guy's cool. So that you know what I mean. So
Oh yeah, we
that
do.
that made that era, and man, it just, man, look where it went. I mean, sky's the limit.
What were
It's
your thoughts on the way social media attempted to bury his legacy for past transgressions?
every, none of us are guiltless. I hear a lot of the stuff. I turn off a lot of stuff anymore. So I unfortunately, social media is going to be our downfall, because anybody and everybody can not have to confirm anything they write or put down. So that's about all I can say on that. I just know that he put wrestling on the roadmap for the last 3 decades, 4 decades, 3 decades, and if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't be talking right now.
There you have it.
So
There you
so I
have it.
mean,
And actually, technically, I don't want to scare anybody, but right up until his very death, I think this is 5 decades. It's good
yeah,
luck.
it's you think about it, it's like, holy smokes. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and like I said, when just going back to my thought is, when Tiger came in, who watched the PGA?
Right.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay,
Right.
so I mean, wow, you had these two mega stars, whether they were very good Tiger was phenomenal, but I mean, a lot of people say if Hogan couldn't work, he couldn't do this. Hey, guess what? I'm gonna first tell you, I couldn't work. I was just a brawler. And,
Wow.
and
That's funny.
I was not a good worker, and I appreciated when guys would tag with me that could work. It helped me.
Did you learn a lot? Did you learn a lot more when you went to Japan? Because not to parallel it with Hogan, but Hogan's early matches in Japan, they're pretty awesome. He's doing some decent wrestling there. Wrestling you wouldn't see him do in America because his presentation was different.
Yeah,
Did you learn more over there?
I learned a lot in Japan. I learned a lot. Anywhere I was at, just because especially when I was around, I think I learned the most around in the UWF, just working with that talent pool.
Bill Watts.
I mean, man, you look about it, all those guys are just phenomenal talent. And then, working, when I went from there to Von Erichs and stuff like that, you had a good talent pool. So that's when I started really picking it up, and but early days, I think you couldn't work myself out of a paper bag. I could fight you. I'll knock your teeth out.
Right.
And I'll drag you by your foot out of the bar. But it's I just wasn't a good worker.
John, I got to ask you. Jimmy mentioned Wrestle Rock. You were part of Wrestle Rock, right?
No, I not Wrestle Rock. No,
Okay.
no, yeah,
Did you work with Buck Rock and Roll Zoomhoff at all?
Oh boy.
no, I didn't work with him.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Thank God. Thank God. Right?
Oh, Mike.
yeah.
It's not Halloween. Take that down.
Man, I'll tell you, the AWA had some of it. So let's get you over to WCCW, right? You mentioned that Fritz was on his way out, right? Who was
Right,
running
right.
the organization? Kevin?
Actually, Brody was running the book, so
Really,
that's
that late Brody was running. So tell us
Yeah.
about WCCW when you get there.
yeah. So yeah, I reached out to Frank, and we worked together in Japan and stuff. And I say, I'm looking. He goes, "Oh, come on down, man." So I came down and worked with him. He did the Red River Jack gimmick, and we had some pretty good talent there. I mean, you still had you had Kerry and Kevin, and you had a Missing Link, you had Dewey. Who else we have? We had Percy Pringle, we had Gary Hart.
Wow.
We had some good talent there. Yeah, and Matt Bourne was there.
By the way,
Blackjack.
loaded.
Yeah,
But
it was on its way out. It was dying.
Even with Brody running the book, huh?
Yeah, it was dying. Look at the match in Texas Stadium when I'm with Abby, me and Abby against Spike in Red River with Brody, and you can look at the stands and it's just like, wow,
Let me ask you about Brody though. So we've had many people. Tony Al's been on the show a billion times. He tells really an in-depth story about Brody's murder. Some wrestlers had thought that Brody was very tough to deal with, and he had a reputation of trying to destroy territories. What are your thoughts about Frank? Not that he deserved to die. I'm not saying that, but was he difficult to deal with?
No, I enjoyed working with him. Just the opposite. When I was working for Von Erichs down there, I was running a book for a promotion in Central Illinois, and so I Frank can come in and do. Yeah, no problem, man. So I never had a problem with. I enjoyed working with him. He was stiff as can be, and it worked out well for me because I was stiff too. So we had good matches. We were. I considered him a friend. No issues whatsoever. I have not seen. I knew that he was tough on promotions. Never had an issue with him on our little promotion we were doing with pay or anything like that. So he came in, did his match, and off he went. But I never had work with him in Japan. Huge in Japan, man. Whew, man, he was hot in Japan.
What was your reaction when you heard that he had been killed?
I was extremely saddened, to hear that. It was like, wow, just how in the heck did that happen? Yeah, it was that was rough. I remember that. It was definitely a loss. I really, like I said, he was the epitome of old school wrestling and brawler. That brawler. Him and Stan Hansen. Oh my God, when they tagged together, that was always good to watch. The big men when they can move and work. Terry Gordy, man, big guy. He was phenomenal to watch work. These big guys were just impressive. But yeah, I was just watching an old match. It popped up on YouTube of me and when Frank was under the hood in Dallas, and I remember that boot from the video.
Wow.
We were doing Texas Stadium. We were outside. Well, this is before I'm in the ring. I'm on my knees, and he come up with that cowboy boot and closed my eye. And we went outside, and I was working with him on the table there with the announcer, and it was kind of a little melee, nothing much, but he started stiffening up, and I got him in the ribs, and we finished the match up, and he's like, you're like, no, like lighten up, Frank. You're on the ropes. We get in the locker room afterwards, and I go up and I said, "Thanks, Frank. You closed my stinking eye." You know, that boot. And he come in, hold the side. He goes, "Brother, that's the hardest I've ever been hit in my life." I said, "What'd you say? I want everybody to hear that in here, in the locker room here." But
Wow.
yeah, it was. I enjoyed working with him.
Talk
So
to us about working with the Von Erich boys.
mhm.
What was that like? Were you disappointed when you got down there? Were they doing a lot of drugs? Was it out of
I
control?
I worked with them in Japan before that. Earlier. So Kerry and Kevin were over there. Kerry came in for like maybe a week and then flew back home. That was just his commitment for the tour. Um, I enjoyed being with them. They were both really nice guys. Kerry was a little, wow, what a physique and ability, and I remember sitting in the studio. We're all doing our interviews for the Texas Stadium, and it had to do a Coke interview, just a little thing for Coca-Cola, a little
Not that
10-second
Coke.
spot.
Sorry.
Right. And I'm literally, it took us like an hour. We're all
That Coke. I mean,
yeah. He couldn't get that thing right, man. We're just
oh, great.
cut. Do it again, Kerry. It was like, God dang, we're all looking at each other like, you really? Yeah, it was a long afternoon in that studio, waiting for him to get done with the Coke ad.
Wow.
But
Had David passed by the time you got there?
David passed, yeah. David passed. I was down there when Mike, I think it was Mike, committed suicide. So I was down there. We were doing a loop in Mississippi, Alabama. It was terrible. Terrible houses. Mobile, Alabama, some Greenville, Mississippi, and somewhere else on the way back. Yeah, for the Von Erichs, and during that weekend, that's when he committed suicide. So it was a sad story, man. Them guys. I watched the Iron Claw, and it was just I just sat there at the end of the movie, and it's just all the thoughts came back. It's like, man, and they were really nice guys to talk to and stuff like that, and just all the tragedy. It just seemed like, holy smokes.
What did you think about the Iron Claw? Did you think that it did them justice? Do you think they made Fritz look terrible? I mean, what were your thoughts?
I don't know.
Could there have been a better Ric Flair? Go on.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't the way it really was, but I mean, for when I was there. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty decent movie, but it was lacking. It was lacking of some real in-depth behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, I think they portrayed the fact that they were, they're troubled, and the reason being, was it from dad? From dad. We've all been around people like that.
Do you think it was Fritz, or you think it was the boys? I have another question for you too, because I'm a huge Von Erich guy. And Kevin is always, to us as fans, and we discussed with a few guys, and the answer surprisingly is different, at least at the beginning when we first started. I said, but Kevin always seemed like the good guy, and the rest of them were having so many problems. But they're telling me Kevin was the worst of them all. Is that what you saw also?
This is all I can say. I saw Kevin as the leader, as the common sense guy. Kerry wasn't arrogant or nothing like that at all. He just didn't say a whole lot. But the night I drug up, because it was not a good. It wasn't going very well. I'm like, screw this. I had it was a 6-man tag team, and it was Spike and who else was with it? Kevin Von Erich and somebody else, and it was me, Nord the Barbarian, and Jeep Swinson. Well, I drug up that night. I was like, these guys can go pound sand. I get a call from Spike later after the match. He goes, hey. I go, what? He goes, I said, how was the match? He's like, Kevin went to the field position, man. He turned blue. I go, you got to be kidding me. So yeah, we had to stop the match and everything, and it was a house show. I guess he'd been cranking 3 days straight, and went to the fetal position, and so I mean that was the story, and got him resuscitated, and he's still here with us today, But yeah, I'm gonna tell you that that crank was so big, and it destroyed so many guys, man. I just have no love for drugs whatsoever.
How did you stay out of all this, John?
I was raised, I believe it or not, even with my attitude and my behavior, I never. This is the way I looked at it. I was around it, growing up back then. It was always around. You could have it. I was afraid I'd like it. So I guess, the way I was raised, I always had it in the back of my mind is like, you can do that, but if you really like it, it's going to ruin your life. And believe it or not, I had that thought process, and it kept me away from. I could be around some pretty interesting individuals, and not partake of it. And I didn't have a desire for it. I thought life was exciting enough without trying to paint it with a different type of paint. You know what I mean? So I was fortunate. That's all I can think of. I think I was fortunate. I was raised that way, and I think the Lord just kept me. I was close, and He kept me from making that step across the line. So I thank God for that, because I've seen too many guys.
How are you able to emotionally navigate through your coworkers being murdered, suicide? How do you balance yourself with these sorts of things?
Yeah, you learn not to trust anyone. One thing is you kind of go in there thinking everybody's gonna, like I said, guys were, taking a little advantage of you and stuff like that. But you start realizing, you start getting a little harder, the more you're around, and realize you are not, you are just a number in this business. And like I said, I mentioned before, there's 1,000 guys out that back door that'll take your position. Remember that, hold on a second. You remember that? For
You're muted.
You there?
Yep.
Oh,
good.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. There was an episode of the Brady Bunch. It was about Johnny Rocket. He fits the uniform. So that's the mentality. We're just, there's a few guys, but I mean, for the most part, we're all just numbers, and there's plenty of guys lined up behind to take it. So I realized that when, hey buddy, you're going to be this, hey buddy, you're going to do that, I just like, okay, show me, and I learned not to trust anymore, that business or the people in it. So I guess that's maybe I overstepped that a little bit, but I just learned from all that crap that it's time to step away from it. And when I left, I didn't have no regrets. Let's put it that way.
You able to still watch wrestling nowadays, or is it just like, okay, been there, done that, and moved on to other things?
I don't watch the stuff on TV now. I do. So I'm a Shriner. Okay, so we had I said, let's have a little wrestling match, just kind of commemorate my past. We'll have a little wrestling match, and I found a promotion here in Northwest Indiana, and it's called Backbreaker Wrestling, and it's husband and wife, and it's old school angles. It's low key, and it's family friendly. There's none of that other crap that you're seeing on TV, which is really kind of pathetic. It takes away from the old, the old ways, I guess. But so I started. I went and checked them out, and I'll go see them once in a while, but that's about it. It's just something. Talk to the guys, and a lot of them been around for 15 years or so, trying to make it. And good guys work hard, and that's I do enjoy that. So, but as far as watching the stuff on TV, not so much. I my son, he's like, hey dad, um, he's 11. He likes that Randy Orton, and I told him, I says, I used to work with Bob. I used to work with his dad. Here's a picture of him with little Randy in his hands. Little baby. He's really, So yeah, it's kind of detached thought process. I look at a lot of that stuff, and they're like, oh, that I used to work with their dad. And yeah, it's kind of wow. It's been a while. But anyway.
Well, John, we want to thank you for joining on the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling. Thank you for being so honest. Thanks for a great interview. Thank you for what you've done in the business, sir. And be well. Don't let the snow get you.
All right, man. Appreciate the opportunity. Talk to you later. Have a good one.
Be well. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Jimmy, there's John. How are you, buddy? What'd you think?
Good. I had a good time. He was a good listen too.
Wanted to cover a couple of things with you real quick. We got really a lot to cover, but I did want to cover one thing. Again, Vince Russo posted on his social media that I think he's turned 65, 60 something.
Okay.
And how happy he is to work for JCW. I wanted to get your feelings on one thing.
Yeah.
Hannibal, who just had Vince Russo on, was bitching a little bit that Vince Russo hasn't offered him a spot at JCW. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, on the surface, to me, just working with the posse and Russo is potentially very combustible. You're really going to throw a third into the mix? I'm not surprised. So it looks like, hey, buddy, let me come on your show, but I'm not necessarily going to help you out there, pal.
Well, doesn't you as a
knows?
person, right? What would you look at as that? Would you think that was a flaw in yourself? Like, at what point does Hannibal realize that, hey, man, people could talk you up on your show, but in reality, they want nothing to do with you. Wouldn't you realize that there's something wrong right there?
Well, from the outside looking in, it's all flawed. So I'm like, okay, flawed company has flawed guy with flawed guy not coming in. They're all flawed anyway. No, the light bulb won't go off for any of the aforementioned, if that's what you're getting at. So, sorry.
No, but that's what I'm getting at. I'm like,
truth.
when does it happen? You know what I mean?
Look, it's a mess to begin with. Now, to the posse's credit, I got to give them some credit here. I ain't gonna be stupid, but they've had the JCW thing for quite a while. Russo is just a little splash for whatever they're. Look, what is the end game here? Make a little noise, yada yada yada. I don't see why they wouldn't bring Hannibal in, quite honestly. You've already got a crazy ass shit show going on over there. Just go for broke.
Yeah, you're right.
No, seriously, go for broke. Why not? Maybe you can, put a spike through a timekeeper's head. What do you think? The poor guy trying to hit the bell.
Do you think, again, a lot of the podcasters,
just trying to hit the bell.
A lot of the podcasters are like chiming in. I don't know if it's part of the gimmick or whatever. When I mean gimmick is they're trying to help people out, but they're like, JCW looks like they're going to make some noise here. And I'm like, there ain't no way they're making any sort of noise. Even TNA is not making any noise to move on AEW. They're worse than AEW.
Right. Like you just said, like if they're not, come on, TNA is not even making any noise, like true noise. Let's be honest.
Right.
We all know that when it comes to the little train that could, if you know what I'm getting at, the ECW is the only little train that ever truly, like, oh my God, reached the ears and eyes that it reached.
Right.
So anything underneath it is a whole different sort of thing going on, which I'm not overly impressed with sometimes. And I've never been overly impressed, like with the posse. I'm just not. Look, it's my right as a wrestling fan to either like characters or not. When I first saw them, I'm like, what the fuck is this? So ever since I've been thinking to myself, what the fuck is this? It's like a band you don't like. It's called an opinion. Sorry. I mean, what?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where I'm at with it. Now, Russo, I'll tell the truth about it. Like way back, I thought he was awesome. Then he became not so awesome as he started to spit the bit. And then you'll learn years later, well, I kind of knew then too, like, this McMahon and Russo together worked great. I'm sorry, they did. That was a great combo, and it was only meant to last a certain amount of time. And after it expired, the rest is history, right, Mike? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just history. So I've been impressed with them, and I've also been more of the time, unfortunately, not impressed. It's unfortunate, unfortunately. See, I did a Rich Kotite there, not to mention a Jet reference there, but no playoffs for us, no winning season for us. Mike, are you going to be one of the coaches next year on Aaron Glenn's staff? That's what I want to know.
No, I'm not.
Why not? Why
Because
not?
I give up. Again, I want to
Yeah.
remind everybody this show is brought to you by FanDuel.
FanDuel.
All right, and Monte The Pharaoh on there. We're gonna just go to FanDuel real quick. Let's see what the FanDuel NFL lines
Here we
are.
go. We're down to 4.
I think the game's starting pretty soon, right?
Yeah, 3. Yeah, it probably just did. Yeah.
New England minus 3.5. Denver getting 3. The LA Rams getting 2.5. Seattle getting 2.5. Rams giving 2.5. Now we've been hot by the way, for FanDuel. FanDuel should thank us because the fans are listening to us. They're making a solid payday, by the way.
There you go. There you go.
Which way you going? What are you thinking, brother?
Well, let's just cut to the chase. I'm seeing the New England Patriots and the Los Angeles Rams in the Super Bowl. I mean, logically, not to be a Vulcan about this, but even if I was Captain Kirk, I'd be like, those are the two. So, I mean, I cannot see.
Denver saying that the Denver fans are going to be able to relax for 2 weeks because they're going to Super Bowl.
No, it'll be impossible to play there like it's always impossible to play there. I refuse to believe that the fans will suddenly not lose their hostility and the aura of the stadium will fail. It will be there. But I refuse to believe that this is Jeff Hostetler. Now, I do feel that they have a Parcellian type coach. I do. But I don't believe that this is Jeff Hostetler that's coming in to do this. So, no, not with what Vrabel has built and not the way Vrabel has become the Sergeant Slaughter of the New England Patriots. And my God, I can't believe it. They've stepped in shit again so fast, Mike. It's disgusting.
We
Now,
agree on the
our only
Rams.
hope is Stafford.
We agree on the Rams. I'm going with Denver. I'm sorry.
You're going with Denver. So you
going
think
with
it's going
Denver.
to be do you think it's going to be the Broncos? I mean, is this a point spread thing, or do you think that it's going to be the Broncos versus the Rams?
That's what I'm predicting.
I can see it. I can see it. I mean, if anyone's going to pull it off, it is going to be the coach. His ability to get the quarterback to believe and everybody around him to believe. But I'd like to see the Patriots fail. Okay.
Really important moment for the Monte and the Pharaoh show, and pretty important to Jimmy and myself. We want to recognize the passing of Uncle Floyd, Northeast legend, New York legend, Uncle Floyd. Jimmy, you want to share your thoughts on the great Uncle Floyd? For people that don't know, maybe you could introduce them to the world of Uncle Floyd.
Well, Uncle Floyd was kind of a vaudeville burlesque sort of feel. He was a very old school feel. Tremendous piano player. He did like a variety comedy show that kids could watch, but was also for the adults. I mean, it was always very improv. It was unique. He broke in on UHF back in the days of VHF and UHF. UHF was in its infancies in those days, and he stayed on UHF for a quarter of a century. He was the little train that could. I was very, very. I'm telling you, Mike. I'm telling everybody out there, this show would never have happened without Uncle Floyd. He was the little train that could. He was the regular guy. And wasn't born into the business, and he didn't know anybody, and he was just from a family of musicians. His father was a musician. His brother turned out to be in Mighty Max's band and on the the late night shows for how many decades? I mean, And these guys came from nothing and were able to do this. And Floyd always fought the little man's fight and found a way. And at one point, I remember, Mike, I turned you onto the show, and lo and behold, he wound up on NBC for like a year. You were like, oh my God, this guy came from like
Yeah.
UHF. He was like, you didn't see anything. You were like, what are you watching? Who is this nut job? And what's that
Right.
guy laughing in the background? Oh, that's
Right.
Looney Skip Rooney, Mike.
Yeah.
Like, what is
Right.
going on here? They would have these different bits. Do you remember there was a bit, a day in the life of a food? And they would show Floyd eating like you eat your TV dinner, and the food was making noises. So when he was swirling the spaghetti, it's making like little, And then he sticks the fork in, and what do you hear? Ah! And then he's chewing the meatballs. The meatballs. It's bizarre shit, but it was funny. It was very creative, and there wasn't a song he couldn't play. My father took me to a live television taping in those classic, days, and I got to see them do the show live, which was amazing to me. And then at the age of, I think I sent you the photo. At the age of 27, going on 28,
By the way, I love this photo.
oh
You look so happy in this photo, and it's
my lord.
it's amazing, amazing.
Well, when I discovered years later that his biggest supporters were John Lennon and David Bowie, I remember seeing Howard Stern on the Uncle Floyd show before anyone knew who he was. John Bon Jovi, before anyone knew who he was, his first television appearance was on the Uncle Floyd show. The Ramones used to wear Uncle Floyd shirts, like specifically one Ramone. They all knew what I knew. David Bowie would cut sessions short to run back to the apartment in the city to watch Uncle Floyd. And when he met Uncle Floyd, Floyd was like, "How did you find out about me?" He said, "John Lennon told me." Oh, okay. He was in movies. He got into Good Morning Vietnam. He did a lot of amazing stuff for the little train that could. And again, without him, he was very inspiring to me, because at the end of the day, you want your product to be organic, you want it to be entertaining, and you want to be good at it, and you want to know what you want out of it. And he always did, and he never wavered, and he was able to entertain till the age of 75. To me,
Yeah.
he's a winner. Rest in peace, Uncle Floyd.
He was definitely a goat, and I got to tell you, a couple of years back, again I lose track of time, but Jimmy reached out to Uncle Floyd's manager, and we
Yeah.
almost had him on the show. He wasn't doing well,
No.
and we almost had him on the show, which would have just
Yeah.
been incredible. I would say
Yeah.
this: Uncle Floyd was an originator. He falls into the lanes of like a Howard Stern, David Letterman, but one of these guys out of the box, not the standard type of guy. Again, I'll be fair, guys. Jimmy, when I first started hanging out with Jimmy way back, I
Yeah.
didn't get it right. Like it just wasn't my shtick. But then as you got to watch, all of a sudden, like you got it, and the guy. I will say this though, Jimmy, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be fair. I
Okay.
did not think he was a very good stand-up comic.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you say that. I got to go with my dad again to see his live act at an adult club twice. He's fantastic, and there was plenty of f bombs. He was bad. By the way, and you know how much I love the guy. That photo that you showed previously is from the brokerage. Now he was performing there, and that was the year that War Dance was basically kicking the shit out of Long Island. So this was a great time, and we were able to, because we also played at that club, get a front table right in front of Floyd, and I'm there with my mother and father. And Tom, that's Tom Cavanaugh from War Dance in the middle there, right behind Hugo. That's the puppet, of course. And Mike Lyons, the president of our label. Tom's parents are there, and we're all sitting at the table. And Floyd sees me, of course, because look at the mark, Mike. I'm surprised you're not making fun of me here. I got the Uncle Floyd shirt on. I got the Uncle Floyd album in my hand. My
I
God,
saw I saw it.
what?
Yeah.
What? By the way, I look good here. What's going on? What happened?
No, you were
Uh,
young. We were young, bro. That's
yeah,
it.
but he's on the stage and he looks at me sitting there at the table and he looks at my parents and he goes, "Is this your son?" And my father was like, "Yes," and he's very proud. My father's very proud. He's like, "Yes, this is my son." And he's like, "I'm sorry to hear that." But I'm bone cling. I'm like, "Oh my God, buried." And Tom's like, "You got buried." I'm like, "Fuck, shit."
Oh
Then
my
we had a
god.
beer with him, a couple of beers. By the way, in that photo, there's this chick. I got to point that out too. That there's this chick in the photo. No one knows who she is. She's trying to get in Floyd's pants. It was
Really?
hilarious. Oh, Floyd was rolling his eyes at us. Tom's like, "You're gonna get some, Floyd." Floyd was like, "Please."
Love it, Jimmy. I love it. All right, Jimmy, you want to send us out, and again, rest in peace, Uncle Floyd. I'm glad we got to get the show in. Thank you for Eli, the Eliminator, John, Richmond. Very, very, very nice guy. Jimmy.
Yes, sir. And like Uncle Floyd said, remember, kiddies, it's a sin to tell a lie. You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until next time, get your shovels.
The lone shadow